So Final Fantasy VII Part 3 is expected to come out next year in 2027 on a date that has yet to be revealed. And the reason I say that is because next year is supposed to be the 30-year anniversary of the original Final Fantasy game that appeared on the PS1 back in 1997. And to this day, I don't think there's been a game in the entire series that has surpassed Final Fantasy VII on the PS1 in terms of overall sales. And the reason I say that is because Final Fantasy VII did like 9 or 10 mil on the PS1 alone because it was exclusive for that particular console. Um, I feel like most of the entries that came out after that were okay up until like 13, which came out back in 2009. I would say like the late 2000s was the beginning of the decline for the Final Fantasy series as a whole. I feel like for the teens decade, it was just coasting off its reputation, and the only games people really gave a damn about was Final Fantasy 15, and then I guess like the repackaged version of Final Fantasy 14, because the original version of that game was, I mean, it failed miserably, and I honestly feel like the series has been coasting off its name for a long, long time to a point where people are not even interested in like some of the more recent stuff they put out outside of anything Final Fantasy 7 related because Final Fantasy 16 came out back in 2023 and not one damn person's talking about it, whether it be online or whether it be like on forums. It seemed like people have forgotten about it really quickly, despite the fact that it was considered to be a good game by critics. And I feel like I feel like Square Enix making Final Fantasy 16 M rated was a huge mistake. It should have just stayed rated T because rated M games appeal to more adult gamers who are way more critical, and in turn, they'll pick anything apart if it's not perfect. So that's something that clearly hurt them. But you look at the older games that we got from back in the day, whether it be like I'll say like from Final Fantasy 7 up until like maybe 12, all those games were either good or decent for the most part. And it just seems like the series in general just lost its luster, and we've been getting nothing but spin-offs and all kinds of stuff for Final Fantasy 7. We got Crisis Core back in the late 2000s, I believe. We got Ever Crisis. We've gotten all kinds of like remakes and spin-offs for Final Fantasy 7. Much isn't being done with 8 because I don't know. I guess there are a lot of gamers who aren't huge fans of like romance and stuff like that in gaming. Final Fantasy 9 was actually pretty underrated, and I heard there was supposed to be a remake for that, like, sometime in the future, but I haven't heard anything about it as of late, so it's something that could happen, and it's probably something that Square Enix has put on the back burner for now. We'd gotten, we either got a remastered or like a remake version of Final Fantasy 12 a couple of years ago. I don't think they're gonna touch, Final Fantasy 11 because that was more of an MMORPG. Um, I feel like at some point Square Enix is going to move to Final Fantasy, I guess 13, probably around 2009 because or not 2009, probably around 2029 because 2009 I believe is when Final Fantasy 13 first came out, at least part 1. That's when part 1 came out. A lot of people hated it. And I think part 2 came out in 2011 and people like part 2 more than they did part 1. So I'm not exactly sure how Square Enix is going to handle that whole thing, but as far as Final Fantasy VII Part 3 is concerned, um, a lot of people are gonna probably like this game because you look at some of the features that it has. It has like free roaming, it has snowboarding, it has like airship travel across the world, and it has at least 7 different playable characters. So I feel like it's something that people are going to be thrilled about, and obviously there's going to be like better like combat mechanics and stuff like that. And I honestly feel like just because of like the name value of Final Fantasy 7 along with the improvements and all the, you know, I guess the digital updates and stuff like that, it's going to be probably as good, if not better, than Final Fantasy VII Rebirth from 2020, which was probably one of the good things to come out of that year because 2020 was just an awful year in general. Um, yeah, I just think, Final Fantasy VII Part 3 in general is something that people are definitely going to be looking forward to in 2027. It has game of the year like potential, just like as of right now. Um, I could see it, possibly selling more than Final Fantasy, 7 Rebirth if the price for the game isn't something outrageous. Um, it seems like I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Square Enix or anything like that because it seemed like corporations, um, they feel like they can charge whatever they want for a new game, even if it's completely irrational. And hopefully, that's not going to be the case for this upcoming game because people have waited too long, um, for this particular. And I honestly feel like if they were to keep their fans happy, they'll keep it at a decent price, like I don't know, $70 or, I mean, I feel like there are people who would pay $80 for this. They'll gladly pay $80 for this, considering the fact that it's part of the Final Fantasy VII series. And if they're diehard fans of, I guess, Final Fantasy VII in general, they'll have no problem paying for this. But but yeah, I know for a fact this is going to be on the PS5, probably PC. I'm not too sure about Switch 2, maybe Xbox, but but yeah, I honestly feel like it's gonna be one of those deals where like there's never gonna be another character in the Final Fantasy series like Cloud Strife or Sephiroth or Tifa because they're all really popular, charismatic, and like a lot of casual gamers know who they are. And I feel like the last set of protagonists that we've seen in the past couple of Final Fantasy games, mainly from like 13 to like 16, nobody really gives a damn about them for the most part. And I feel like that's a sign that the series in general has gotten stale over time. And I don't think, we're gonna get a Final Fantasy 17 anytime in the near future. And with that being said, I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy VII Part 3. I'm looking forward to seeing whether or not the game, surpasses the first two, Part 1 and Part 2 in terms of sales, and whether or not it's something that is going to end up being the best video game of 2027.